Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Professor, for being here. You've done a pretty good job of bifurcating previous opinions, papers, policy positions that you've bifurcated from this job. As though judgment doesn't matter, even if it's technically true. I mean, we didn't ask you if you're a Vikings fan or a Colts fan or a Chicago Bears fan. These statements you've made matter a lot, even if you don't have direct legal authority for a particular policy. But I want to pretend for a minute that you and I are in the faculty lounge, okay? And you're not applying for this really important job. Do you believe that starving the U.S. oil and gas industries of its capital, even though you have no intention of doing that as the Comptroller, do you believe that if it could lead to the bankruptcy of all the oil and gas companies in America, that would actually help climate change?
Well, Senator, first of all, let me tell you that I would love to engage you in a conversation at the faculty lounge. But in the faculty lounge, people typically do not ask questions in the form, do you believe? But I am very confident in telling you that I believe that the oil and gas industry is an important part of the American economy. However, I also believe that there are important issues in the long term. As a human being, as a person, as a mother, I want my child to live in the world that doesn't suffer from hurricanes of unusual proportions, from fires that devastate farms. All of that stuff is happening. I'm not an expert on climate change. What I do know is that the control of the currency, of course, is not a climate regulator.
But, and I appreciate all of that. My question, though, is more about, and I'll make the point, America's role in this, and America's role in the solution versus what people like John Kerry and Gina McCarthy are advocating, which is really transferring their climate guilt to polluting countries. Like somehow if we shut down the industry in the United States, that Russian natural gas or Venezuelan oil or Saudi oil somehow doesn't have a negative impact on the climate, that we'll all be better if we just starve capital in the United States of America. I would submit to you that building up the oil and gas industry in the United States of America would have a greater impact on reducing climate change than starving it. I want to get to another previous lecture, and I have to say it's really rich to be lectured by the senator from Massachusetts about vicious personal attacks. She spends 5 minutes pretty much every hearing doing exactly that, depending on who the witness is. But there's been a lot said about why it would be obvious that Wall Street banks don't support your nomination. Why do you suppose independent banks don't? Because the Independent Community Banks of America and several state independent banking groups also strongly oppose your nomination. It's not all about Wall Street. And so if you're such a pro-community banker, why do you think that they oppose you so strongly?
Senator, I'm with you on that. I wish the community bankers and their association, trade association, actually read more carefully what I've written, because what I've written, in fact, differs fundamentally from the descriptions of what I've written that have been, proliferating in the media. I cannot speak to the reasons as to why a particular trade association supports or opposes a particular nomination. All I can say is that if I'm the Comptroller, community banks will find no better or stronger ally than they would find in me.
Okay, I'm going to try to drill down just a little more on this statement about socially suboptimal. And you've refused to answer what you believe a socially suboptimal industry might be. Do you think that a regulator ought to have the authority to determine what a suboptimal, socially suboptimal industry is, and then make determinations on whether they ought to be lent to by a community bank, a large bank, a Wall Street bank, or an independent investor?
Senator, I believe that regulators should never substitute their policy judgment for the judgment of Congress. I when I said suboptimal policies, I meant for Congress to make those policy decisions. What kind of activities we want to support, what kind of activities we don't want to support, it is ultimately up to Congress. It is not the regulator's job. I completely agree with you on this one.
I actually happen to think that all the right incentives are already in place for risk assessment by the banks themselves. But anyway, with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the way.
Thank you, Senator Cramer. Senator Daines from Montana is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do want to join my colleagues in